Hey, Hillside. Well, a couple weeks ago, our friend and fellow Hillsider, Libby, gave me a book about running. And, well, it's not so much about running as about, it's called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And it's written by a guy that runs, but his day job is being a novelist. And it's kind of this collection of thoughts, a bit of a memoir as he trained for one of his marathons. And he just talks about if you want some insight into why people like me, if you don't understand why we run and we call it fun and what makes us this way, it is insightful. But he's also not a Christian, so it's interesting. Some of the perspectives are different. And some of his conclusions about things, but some of the principles are very relatable. And at one point, and I read the book, I got a chance to read it on my trip to LA. I read it on the plane, and he, one of the things he's talking about, he ran an ultra marathon once, which is more anything longer than a marathon. This one was a 62 miles, and he talks about how at one point, he's so, or I don't remember, maybe this was during one of the triathlons, I don't remember, but he's done many things. So he talks about you come to a point where when your body's screaming, some of your muscles are like stopping and a lot in your body's telling you to stop. And all you can do is just look, you want to look to keep your form right and your center of mass right. You're looking not straight down, but also not straight up, kind of out in front of you at the ground, a few meters or yards in front of you. And so he talks about looking, 3 yards in front of me. And so all I'm thinking about is just like the next 3 yards, the next 3 yards, the next 3 yards until he gets there. It's like all I can focus on is just getting through the next 3 yards. And I thought, yeah, there have been some moments where that is really relatable, and that's all I'm thinking about is just, okay, one foot in front of the other, like just the next step, and then, and then you kind of pass through some of those barriers, and then all of a sudden your body's cruising or whatever, but these things happen when you're running, and I thought about that idea and how that can also be sometimes just we feel like in our lives, like we're just like, okay, just putting one step in front of the other, or like what I'm looking at right in front of me and not looking, and I think sometimes a lot of that following God can be that same way of like, God, I have no idea where you're directing me. I can't see the big plan and the big picture. And that's a struggle for us. I've been studying in Ecclesiastes because I'm going to want to speak on it in a few weeks here. And I've been thinking about that too, is like, we don't know the future. We don't know what's in front of us. So when we think about that, when that's like brings all this stress and worry and hopelessness because we can't figure it out. We strive after figuring it out and we realize we can never figure it out. All we can know is what's happening. Only God knows the future. So it's in his hands. So this idea of looking just, okay, what can I see? What's in the next 3 yards, and just like, okay, God, show me that next 3 yards, and then we'll worry about the next one and then the next one, and just trusting that he knows where it's going and where it's leading and following him when we can't see. And I've heard it explained that way sometimes in the verse of also of like your word is a light to my path, or a lamp unto my feet. And a lamp like doesn't show you, it just lights up what's around you. If you're holding a lamp, you can't see far in advance. You just see what's right in front of you, the next step. And so his word is guiding us in that next step. And we don't need to worry about what is all the way at the end of it. Because, well, one, we know the ultimate ending, and that's eternity with him. And that stuff in between, that long-term earthly thing, we just trust it's in his hands. And as he shows us that next step or that next 3 yards, we can trust that we can walk in it. And I actually just got done leading the worship with the preschoolers, and we sing a song, every move I make in you. You make me move, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. And then the next verse says, every step I take in you. You're my way, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. And that I was just reminded of it when I was singing too, the idea of every step that I take in you. You just show me that next step. You're my way. He lights my way and my step. And the breath line too is really relatable to a runner. There's a lot of running things that teach me about God and my relationship with him, and that every breath I take, I breathe in you, because the Bible says that he breathed life into us, and the Greek word for spirit is the same as for breath, pneuma, right? He breathes his spirit resides in us, his breath is in us. So every time I breathe, sometimes when I run and I just want to zone out or focus or meditate, focus on God, I just think about breathing in and breathing out his spirit, and kind of like people like to do mantras while they run, sometimes to help them go and this author wrote about how when he was having a really hard time, his mantra was saying, I'm not a human, I'm a machine. And now that's not the approach I take. Like I said, he's not a Christian. So sometimes I like to just Yahweh, breathe in, Yah, out, way, right? The name of God, just his breath is my breath. And I'm just like connecting with him and only focusing on him and just running. So, I don't know, that kind of went on a sidetrack, but that idea that just, focus on when it's really hard, when things are really hard, and we just look, don't worry about the future, God's got it. Just look at those next 3 yards and just step in that, and he'll show you the next one after that. So just take it one at a time and trust in him. That's all I have for you today. We'll see you next time, Hillside.